Hi guys, and welcome to the inside of Lil Devil once again, my E46. In this video I'm going to be replacing the near side rear caliper, but it's the same sort of technique for both sides. So hopefully this might be able to help a couple of you out. If so, don't forget to let us know with a like and subscribe underneath, excuse me. And yeah, I hope this video helps a couple of you out and is a bit enjoyable. So yeah, that's us done for the day, although my Beamer here, the rear handbrake has collapsed, so when you're driving down the road it sounds like a bucket of bolts in the back on the passenger side. So, as you can see, we are working on the E46 behind me. I've got to get this one fixed so I can go get the parts for the truck, which is behind this one. So, we've got a break in the weather for 2 minutes, so wish me luck and that the weather doesn't get any worse. Caliper seized.
That's good.
So the first thing we're going to do is remove the rear wheels, and jack the car up. The first thing we have to do before you even move the car, I always say, crack them off first. Right, so as you join me here underneath the wheel arch, you can see this is the brake caliper that we're changing because this one is sticking quite badly. I managed to get it to free off a little bit, but it's going to stick again. I did it just before Christmas, of course, because it was before Christmas. Didn't have time to replace it at the time. It is now March, so yeah. But I've got a new caliper. I'm just checking to make sure it looks about right before I take it completely out of the bag. So that looks pretty good. So I think the reason I wanted to check, it says that this is for one with 22mm thickness discs. The last time I had them off, I actually checked there and they are 22mm thick, so that is perfect. Right, now the first thing you're going to do when you're removing the brake caliper on an E46 or anything like this is you've got this part here which is a spring clip. So what I usually do is grab my flat blade screwdriver and pop it like that. Put your hand over the edge of it because otherwise it can spring off and fly across your driveway or workshop miles away. And now once that's done, then you pop, I don't know if you can see it very well, like these two clips over here. So let me give it some light. Yeah, they pull out of these, so you pull them out of there, and that'll expose a 7mm Allen key that's going in that way, which is what holds this up. There's one at the top, there's also one at the bottom there. So this one's melted for some reason. I think that's because of how hot this has got. It shows you how badly this one was sticking on as well. So what I'm going to do is grab a 3/8 ratchet with a 7mm Allen key. You can use a normal Allen key, but it's so much easier with a ratchet. Yeah, that's what I mean. One thing I will say as well is I did have a longer one, but the shock absorber gets in the way, so the smaller thing you can get the better, because the less you have to take out. And it's normal excuse me. Right, yeah, it is normal direction of rotation, but just remember when you're looking at a bolt coming this way, it looks like you're doing it up, but you're not. You're doing it anti-clockwise still. So can't get this wrong. There's only two 7mm as you look at the inside of the caliper. What we have to do then is this one off, I usually use my flat blade either side, just things like that. This, sometimes on a good caliper you can put your flat blade in there and pull it like that to try and push the piston back in to make it easier to get this off, but this one, oh actually it did work a little bit, but when they're seized solid like this, you end up bending a screwdriver like that. So there we are. Yeah, the pads, they're not too bad, they're not too old. So, and that is the caliper off like this. The next thing we've got to do is undo this from the brake hose there. What I should have done is crack that originally, but what I can do is put this back on like that to crack it off. As you see, with this caught in like it is, this can't go anywhere, well not very far, which is good, so it makes it easier for me to crack this off, which is actually a 14 on mine, but it is, these are actually aftermarket braided lines I had offline, and yeah, they're brilliant. I changed these a couple of years ago, but yeah, all you need to do is crack it like I just did there. You don't need to go nuts with it, just literally just crack it off a little bit, because then I'll show you what the next step is afterwards. Before I spin that completely off, I'll make sure I've got the other caliper ready, just because then I can screw this one straight back in and I won't lose too much fluid, so hopefully. And always try and make sure to keep this fluid off of your brake, off of your paintwork and things like that. There we are, nice and clean. Make sure the threads are nice and clean. There we are, pop this one back on there. There we are, I've nipped it up, so I shouldn't lose any fluid for the minute, but we still need to bleed the system, but other than that, it's just putting it all back together now. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do, before I put the pads back on, I've actually already done it on this one, that's probably why it looks so clean, but just give this a little bit of a clean up, get rid of any rust, any brake dust. I always do this when I take the pads out. And if you're a bit worried about it, one thing you can do is take a dry pad, just make sure it's okay there. Right, the reason I say dry pad is the next thing, and I'm going to grease these up. Put this one back on there. There we go. There's the new one in place. I will do the same by put a bit of grease on these as well. Sorted. On to bleeding. Alright, one thing I did want to say as well is do not forget to nip up the brake pipes going into your caliper. Don't forget to nip that up. But now what I'm going to do, whilst I'm about to go around the front, I'm going to crack this off to start the bleed. Breakthrough reservoir on these E46s that are right hand drive here. So I'll fill this one up. Yeah, so what we did a minute ago, I think I may have missed it on camera, but yeah, basically to bleed the brakes. And this is a bit, if you're not feeling confident in doing, just don't do it. But if you are, it's an 8mm spanner I used to undo that one. And then what I was doing is I had somebody inside, an assistant inside, had it connected up to a bottle, told them to pump. As you can see, I had a bit of a mishap and a catastrophe, but had them pump the pedal 10 times. Then you close the bleed nipple whilst they're holding the pedal down still, tell them to bring it back, crack the bleed nipple off again, tell them to pump another 10 times, tighten it back up whilst they're still holding the pedal down, then get them to test it. If it feels okay on the test, that's okay. I did it one more time, I did it a third time, so I did 30 pumps all in all on mine. And then I closed it off, cleaned it off as best I could, and then I've also then had them put their foot back on it to double check and make sure there was no leaks from here and no leaks from the pipe which we put back into here. But I will do another video on how to bleed brakes at some point when I'm doing servicing on the vehicles, but so keep an eye out for that, and that might explain it to you in a bit more detail if you are a bit stuck. Also, a very important part of this is going to be, I've got a bit of brake fluid splatter on this. If you do, don't panic, but there is a good way to get rid of it. Grab your watering can. One thing people don't realise is water neutralises brake fluid, so just pour it around everywhere. And you might have got with it, or a hose or something like that will do the same. The water will neutralise brake fluid and it won't hurt the brakes or anything like that either. There we are. I'll probably give it a good clean after anyway. So there we are, guys, time for a road test. And one thing I just wanted to point out yet again is when you jump back in your car, do not forget to pump that brake pedal, because if you don't, you drive off down the road and the piston in the caliper hasn't pushed out quite right. It's like driving with no brakes, and it could really get you into some hot water there. So always do that like I just have. And now it's time to test the car. One thing I always do as well before I even start the engine is pump the brake pedal up. Push down on it as hard as you possibly can and make sure that it doesn't sink or feel spongy. Like this one now is rock solid and it's not sinking underneath my foot, which is a sign that there is no air in the lines, which is fantastic. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that video and it may have helped a couple of you out. If so, don't forget to let us know by hitting a like and a subscribe below this video. And also don't forget that we are not just on YouTube, but we are on other social media platforms as well. So have a look and check us out there for little sneak peeks. I shall see you in the next video. Stay tuned for more content and don't forget that notification bell to keep you up to date. Thanks guys. See you again soon.